I think my least favorite out of the 30 for 30s recently we watched was, I would have to say, the Big East. Just because I've known about the Big East from my uncle bringing me to see Seton Hall for such a long time, and I've already seen the 30 for 30, the Big East. I'm also not a big college basketball fan until March Madness, so college basketball and the whole Big East, storyline, it interested me, but it didn't really interest me to a big level, I should say. But it is fascinating in the way of how the Big East was such a dominant division at the time, and how now college basketball, all these divisions are getting switched up because they're all just kind of switching divisions because it's either SAC or the ACC now. The Big East is really falling apart along with other divisions. So the Big East now was not the Big East back in the 90s or the early 2000s, My second least favorite was definitely Bo Jackson, just because my dad was a big Bo Jackson fan, and I knew immediately that he played two sports. It was football and baseball. So I already knew off the rip who Bo Jackson was, and I had an idea of how his career went, the devastating injury, that he was never the same with his hip. It was cool how they mentioned how Michael Jordan, he played basketball and baseball, and then Bo Jackson was another dual athlete playing football as well as baseball. It was interesting to me how Bo Jackson did succeed tremendously in both those sports. He's probably one of the greatest athletes to ever live just because of how dynamic he was able to become in both those sports. But I would just say, just because I knew of Bo Jackson, that's my second least favorite. My favorite definitely had to be the Eddie Aikau documentary. I had never even heard of this man, and it's just amazing to me how he grew up wanting to surf so bad, and then, he dropped out of school, pursued that career and dream of becoming a professional surfer, was the only lifeguard for that certain beach, saved hundreds of people, never had a person die in his arms, with all those rescues. And then just the tragic story of how, him losing his brother early on, and then eventually losing his wife, who came back to marry him. And then, with the passing of his brother, he just kind of became so distant from everyone. And then, he really wanted to keep this traditional Hawaiian heritage and values that, he went on that trip with the boat to sail to with other people. And, the storm came and, flipped the boat over, and they were all just stranded. And he had the courage and the heart to, go by himself to get help. And it was devastating to know he never made it. And what's even more devastating is they never found his body. He got buried with the ocean, but, it's also kind of, a symbol of how Hawaiians, they love the ocean so much. So it was also probably the best way he could have went, ironically, because he loved the ocean so much that he's now part of the ocean forever. And now they do this whole surfing competition every year, the Aikau surfing competition every couple of years, I should say, not every year. But yeah, that's one definitely spoke to me the most, just because I never even heard of him in my life ever, and just how of a big career he had, and his story is incredible. So yeah, I would definitely say that was my favorite, for sure. And I really have enjoyed these 30 for 30s, and that one, Eddie Aikau, has definitely been my favorite since we started class.